Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In one of my previous episodes, I talked about my doctoral research and findings, which concludes 4 strategies that help nonprofits become successful in my doctorate research book, which will be published soon and available soon, inshallah. One of those of the 5 is that in your leadership, you have business-minded, entrepreneurial spirited leaders. And that means on your board, that means in your executive leadership team. Let's talk about the board for a minute, because I'll tell you, boards can make or break an organization. One of my workshops that I do often is called the High Performing Board. And in this workshop, we talk about how high performing boards focus on powering the organization. And I intentionally use the word power. Why? Because power, by definition, is the ability to do something. So what should a board focus on? A board should focus on the organization's ability to achieve its mission. If the board is not focused on abilities, then that organization will never achieve its mission. It'll struggle. So let's focus on power for a minute. Where's power drawn from? In a high-performing nonprofit, power is drawn from governance. What's governance and why and how is power drawn from governance? Governance is the guardrails. Governance is the North Star. And so if you have leaders in an organization who don't have a North Star to anchor decision-making on, then that organization is moving in circles instead of, think of a railroad track. A railroad track are the guardrails. A train's going to go backwards or forward. So if you want your organization to move forward towards a mission impact, then it needs good governance. And good governance is the North Star, the strategic objective, the vision, the mission, and all the guardrails that help decision makers on the train stay on track towards a future direction. Number 2, high-performing boards, they focus on empowering executive leadership, right? That's hiring and firing the CEO. If you're in an Islamic school, it might be the principal, it might be the dean. If you are a masjid, it might be an executive director or an imam empowered to be the executive director. If you're a nonprofit, it could be your CEO, it could be your executive director, it could be some person in that organization at the end of the day that owns execution. And that can't be displaced across the board. When power in execution is displaced, then the organization does not stay on track to achieve its mission. It lacks the ability to achieve its mission. All right, so let's back up one more time. Boards focus on power. Power is drawn from abilities. Abilities come from 3 areas. Number 1, governance. Number 2, executive leadership. Now let's go to number 3. Number 3 is resources. Boards focus on resourcing the organization. You know, when you look online or you go to many literature and books, they say boards focus on fundraising. And I'll tell you, from a practitioner standpoint, I've worked with hundreds of boards, and most board members, they'll say, I signed up to be a board member, but I don't know how to fundraise. I've never fundraised before. I'm not a salesperson. And I'll tell you what, when people can't be what you're telling them to be, change the framing. And that's all we did. We said, you know what? No, you don't have to fundraise, but can you help resource the organization? Now the board members are saying, well, what does that look like? And I'll tell you a story. One of my mentors and teachers, he passed away. His name is Doug Brennan, and he was the board chair for Water for Good. The CEO at the time, a COO at the time, Rich Klopp, good friend, mentor of mine. Doug Brennan, I was hanging out with him, and he taught me this. He said, Thea, my job as the board chair is to make sure my CEO, Rich Klopp, has everything he needs. So I make one phone call to him every week. Hey, what do you need? What does the organization need? And Rich would tell me, well, we need, someone to go do this. We need a tool or a technology or a software, or we need some person in government or elected official to know about this. And then Doug, as the board chair, his job was to go make it happen through the board. He would go find the resource, or he would go make the introduction to the resource and hand that introduction back to the CEO. So it wasn't always about money, but it was always about making introductions and opening doors that would allow the organization to be resourced. So high-performing boards focus on three things. Number one, they focus on good governance. And I'll tell you what, an organization that lacks governance is at the subjective use and potential abuse of power. That is the consequence of lack of governance. So make sure you have governance. Boards focus on power. Power comes from ability. Ability comes from governance, number one. Number two comes from executive leadership. You need one person who's focused on execution day in, day out. And when that gets displaced, organizations move in circles. When there's board members trying to run passion projects, or staff running passion projects, or high net worth donors writing big checks, pulling and pushing the organization towards things they think matter, you have displacement and you have an organization not on the tracks to get anything done of impact. And number three, the board focuses on resourcing the organization, going out there and getting the resources that are needed. And that comes from the executive directors or CEOs will tell you what they need and focus on that. Get them what they need. They know what the organization needs. As much as you think as a board, you know what the organization needs. Let me tell you something, you're wrong. You're wrong. The executive director and the people on the front lines in the organization, they know what the organization needs. Now, it's your job to give them a strategic plan with their input. It's your job to find the person that's going to make that plan come to life. And then at that point, trust them. Ask them what they need. Now, then hold them accountable. If you do these things, you're being a high-performing board, and that organization will accelerate closer and closer to greater impact towards the mission, towards the dream that you're dreaming of for your organization. If you want to know more about high-performing boards, reach out to me. If your nonprofit needs a seminar or a workshop or just a conversation, I'll be happy to do it. I'll be happy to do a 1-hour complimentary session for your board and walk you through what I talked about tonight and help you out. But that matters to me most, that our nonprofits are performing really, really well. And that starts with the board knowing their job. And if we do that, collectively, we can make sure we have a better world. Thank you. Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah.